Good evening and welcome to the August 18th meeting of the Yukon Capital Project Advisory Board. If I could get roll call, please.
Reynolds. Solon.
Here.
Detterar.
Here.
Inmark.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Shelton.
Here.
Roten. Carpenter.
Here.
Gilliland. Kretschmar.
Here.
Simmeroth.
Here.
Thank you. Hopefully, I know it's been a little bit of time since we last met. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to look over the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Vote, please.
Solon.
Yes.
Carpenter.
Yes.
Detterar.
Yes.
Inmark.
Yes.
Kretschmar.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Simmeroth.
Yes.
Shelton.
Yes.
All right. So item 2 on the agenda this evening is a discussion or recommendation of the final project list to the City Council. So in front of you, you'll have a listing of the recommended projects. And as we discussed in our last meeting, in the minutes we just approved, we talked through multiple projects, 7 total, that we wanted to put together as an overall bond and recommend to the City Council for approval. Those projects are fixing and expanding Northwest 10th Street at Garth Brooks, Garth Brooks Boulevard at Vandeman Avenue, updating water and sewer lines, updating the water waste treatment plant, a fire department or a new Station 3, and then a multi-generational facility out at Frisco Road that would also include the library. So those were blended together for our last discussion. So I want to open it up for comments and discussion on those. That's what we've had some time to think through that a little bit.
I think it's a great idea. I'm all in. And I think the projects that they have selected they hit everything for everybody, something for everybody. And, I'm trying to figure out what was missed here, but you've got streets, you've got water, sewer, fire department, libraries, multi-general facilities with a swimming pool. I know, you'll want to make use of that for our growing swim team. So it's seriously, it's at everything. It's good.
The only concern I have with the the complex out there is Yukon's so far behind that 54,000 square feet, we're going to be just like Mustang did, what was it, 3 years ago? They had to add on to their community center. To me, we're so far behind, we need to go over the top because we're trying to draw more people, spend more time here, which, you know, we are the 3rd fastest growing zip code, but I'm just scared that, you know, $23 million for a 54,000 square foot complex, it's not going to be a lot there. You know, I've been down at Moore Central Station all week, and their facility is top notch. And from 6 a.m. till 10 o'clock, it looks like the mall. You know, and it's affordable and it's packed nonstop, from people working out, seniors walking, just all day, every day. You know, I don't know if it's something that I'm not saying I don't want to take it off, but I don't think it'd be enough, especially as fast as everything's growing here.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it would make more sense to make the rec center larger. I don't know if we really need to double the size of the library. I mean, maybe having a larger library is great, but I kind of agree. I think maybe making the rec center, you know, maybe 70,000 square feet, and then maybe the library 15 or 16,000, something like that.
Do we know how large the library is currently?
No, I'm sorry, we don't have those plans. The only plans that we have were done 4 years ago. And I agree with all of you. I think that we need to plan for the future, not build something that fits what we have right now to our population that we have right now. I think it needs to be something that we've got to plan for growth.
With that being said,
How big, do we know how big the current library is? Ballpark, anybody have an idea?
It says here, library doubles to 27,000.
So it's 13.
13 to 15 probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think if you make it like 17,000 or 18,000, then maybe make the rec center enough,
Yeah. Eat up the
larger.
space.
So, just in general, you're I would say we're almost doing it in a kind of a maybe a different action. So what we do is we get a list, we figure out how much, we approve that,
Yeah.
and then we go and approve the list. So if you look at, and I'm skipping around, sorry,
It's okay.
the 20 year at 15 mils, basically $84 million, right?
Yeah, we're knocking on the ceiling of our borrowing capacity.
Right. So
Yeah.
what I would suggest is you don't have to be, you're not tied specifically to that until you get bids, right?
Right.
So I think you can include all those items, and then we could make a recommendation to approve items 1 through 7 for the projects, and then you approve or disapprove on the next item, which is the total amount, which I think the recommendation is for 20 years at 15 mil.
Right.
Then they take it back and they say they get the bids on everything there and they price it out. And if we come up with, if you need to make some changes to that, you can, but all you're approving is a multi-generational recreation center with indoor aquatic facility and library.
Yeah.
You're not approving specifics of the size
Correct.
or anything like that until you get bids.
Yeah,
So-
we would have to order a study and concept plans and
Yeah.
that to get final bids to know
Yes.
final dollars. I think
Yes.
this is
These are all estimates.
sure.
Yeah, and you may have cost increases. We budget for 10% cost increase or cost variation.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I think
The-
the
the-
size piece of that is valid.
I also want to note that the water lines, that number is incorrect. That will increase. And the same goes for the sewer lines on A.
Increased by how much?
I believe the water lines are probably around 2 million. And the sewer lines, I think they're around,
They were about 4 million.
4
if we look
million?
If
Yeah.
we look at all the ones that were listed as a priority.
So we would come
Okay.
up from, I think right now we're looking at total estimated of 78.3. We would look at about 84.3.
There's just one correction on the water. The number we put as total was that, but that only included the well-filled line. If you include all the lines in the city, that adds another 2.5 million to the water. And then the sewer, I believe that number is correct on your sheet. I retotaled that while I was sitting over there.
Okay.
So
I
what's
believe
the,
that's correct.
what's the water line total?
It's
It'd be
$8 million.
Yeah, $8 million.
Yeah.
So you're still well within the 20-year
You're
millage.
within the mill because you're just over 80 million on total
Yes, sir.
against total borrowing capacity.
And that still gives you, theoretically, about $4 million to play with.
Yeah.
Which we know won't happen because prices will go up, but that still gives you that
A little bit of a buffer,
Yeah, that's
for
what.
sure.
What's that? About a 5%
Yeah.
buffer.
Yeah. Other comments or feedback?
Are we saying this is the order of priority to the city?
I think you have to, don't you have to let that be the city council decision? We're just voting on the projects, right?
We're voting on the projects as well as the funding.
Right.
But this is going to be a recommendation to the city council.
Okay.
They would set priority of spend.
And you can do lease purchase and do so much, you know, you can do more in advance of. So you can get, you know.
The only other feedback I received talking to people about this, in one conversation, was on the fire department itself, was, do we need a third station, or are we not located correctly where our population is and need to build the new station and just stay at 2, but relocate it? And so that could be something to consider as we think about this from a funding perspective, is maybe we do need to build it, but we move equipment, we don't have the operational costs or the people costs, right? We would relocate them to be better suited to support the community.
Yes, sir.
Have we done any capacity studies to see if they're at capacity at 2 stations?
We
I don't
have
know
not
that
done
we ever
any
talked about that.
We have not done any studies.
Okay.
Currently, there's not a need for a station on, but with all the growth that we've had
Sure.
and all the growth that's coming, then we will need one eventually. And with all of the commercial that is already at Garth Brooks and I-40,
Yeah.
you know, that we still have land out on Frisco that hasn't been developed yet, and when that happens,
Yeah, our
there's
needs-
really
our
going to
needs
be a
shift,
need.
right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
And that could be, theoretically, that project could be 10 years
yes.
Yeah.
down the
Oklahoma
road.
City's building a station right now, aren't they? Over on 59th and
I believe so.
out west.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments on this? Do we have a motion to approve this to present to the city council?
I would make a motion to approve the recommendation of the projects as listed by the City of Yukon, items 1 through 7.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Simmeroth,
Yes.
Kretschmar,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Shelton,
Yes.
Inmark,
Yes.
Solon,
Yes.
Dutterar,
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
All right. Item number 3 this evening is recommendation of funding sources to present to city council. As we just discussed, we have another $2.5 million we missed in the original project list. So we're talking about a total of about $80.8 million is what we're talking about for a bond. And so 2 funding sources we had discussed originally were both in addition to the mills and property tax, as well as a sales tax increase for the operational and people costs of that. Comments, questions?
So I believe you spoke about possibly taking some of the library square footage and putting it in the multi-generational center. And so just a thought would be, based on our architect estimate on just the square footage, the library was much cheaper per square foot than a multi-generational center. So just as you increase that, it wouldn't be apples to apples if you take it from the library and put it there on the cost-wise.
Understood. Okay.
But wouldn't combining them make it cheaper overall to build than?
But I think they are combined. This is one facility, correct?
I mean,
No. You're talking about the library and the multi?
Yes. It says
One facility.
with indoor aquatic facility and library. I understood that to be one facility.
I did as well. One facility.
because
What
the,
they cost.
the
Yes.
estimated costs
The-
are the standalone estimates, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, they weren't?
I don't, well, that's not the way I understood it.
The original building that we had plans for combined the library with a community center. We have also talked about having a split building with a breezeway in between, because the same clientele that go into the recreation center don't go into the library. And some of them, you know, after talking to our librarian, she recommended that we split the buildings. And the reason why is because, like I said, there's some clientele that go into the recreation center that they don't want inside the library.
Sure. But I think that comes back to concept drawings, proofs,
Yes.
and options,
Right.
options for us to really think through.
Yes,
But I
sir.
think if we set a budget of roughly, $32 million, we can probably design a few different
Yes.
pathways.
But it would be bid as one project, one contractor.
Excuse me.
And are
Yes,
these
sir.
costs with that intent that it's separate?
It's two separate departments, but the buildings could be connected.
So, just to clarify, basically the $32 million, there's currently a $32 million budget estimate, right? For all of that, whether it's combined or whether it's a separate building.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, and I will disagree with your librarian. I think it should be one building.
I was gonna say that,
Yeah. From construction.
I'm not
costs.
we can go 12 miles down the road and see it. It's been working for the last 10 years.
That's why we need to get different plans
You know,
to see the
that's-
costs.
And the original drawings that we had for this piece of property out of Frisco, everybody keeps bringing it up at 140. That needs to be erased from our memory. There was no reason for memory serves me correctly, a 5,000 seat softball stadium. OU's building one right now, and I think theirs is like 5,200.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
There's no reason for us to build that. There's no reason for a soccer stadium seating. No reason for baseball stadium seating. So that's something I would like to see new numbers brought to the public before we went out to try to push it. Because like Moore or Midwest City just opened up a really nice one for $6 million. It's
The sports
Or-
complex?
yes. Our numbers versus what's being done is way off, in my opinion.
I respectfully disagree because I price this stuff a lot. Our
Okay.
indoor facility alone, just our indoor, which is just turf and a shell and weight rooms and stuff, that's $30 million.
Yeah. So what'd your softball field cost this year?
This year, it's $500,000 put on turf,
Yeah.
just turf.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about building. You're talking about you can't. I'm just talking about building this building. I'm not talking about fields.
Okay.
I'm just talking about buildings.
Yeah. And I agree with
Yeah.
you that $32 million
Now the
isn't going to
fields,
get much.
whenever you.
Just as a starter, a point, on the plans that they did 10 years ago, the dirt work was $7 million. And
That was 10 years ago.
that was 10 years ago.
So, just as Robert's rules here is we've already approved and voted on action item 1 with the fact that we're going to bring back.
Yep.
These are the items,
Yep,
and
we
then
are
once
on
the
it.
items go through, we'll get the bids and plans
Correct.
for the city council to approve, right?
Yes.
Correct.
And then the next piece is
Funding source.
Yeah, we are on to funding sources. So for those approved propositions, we talked about 20 years at 15 mils for project construction. We talked about sales tax 20 years at a quarter point for the cost of the fire, rec center, and library personnel and operational costs. Any opposition?
I will tell you that I think that at the current valuation, I think you're going to get more. Eventually, you're going to get more than your 84 million as value because as valuation rises,
Yeah.
you're able to sell based on that,
Yeah.
and you're going to. I think you're going gonna get more, so I think you'll be able to do, more projects than what you have here.
Right.
As my dad used to say, I don't know if you heard me say this, you can't count your chickens before you get the cash. But
Sure.
you know you'll get 84. I'm just telling you, you'll probably get more, which you'll be able to pay off earlier, which you'll be able to do more. You can sell.
Right, because
You
I think
gotta-
we
you
were
gotta
about
keep those
two
levies
and-
up.
Yeah, we
What's
were
a
about
quarter
2.5
cent gonna bring
x this number for total project for everything that we saw, right? I think we were about
Pretty
2.5
close,
x
yeah.
that. So as we are able to pay down debt, hit debt service, I do think there's an opportunity for us to keep the mills on and continue to grow Yukon.
100% agree.
So, do I have a motion to approve funding sources of 15 mills for 20 years and a quarter point sales tax for 20 years?
Motion.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Shelton,
Yes.
Simroth,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Kretschmar,
Yes.
Inmark,
Yes.
Duderar,
Yes.
Carpenter,
No.
Solon.
yes,
Our item number 4 is discussion recommendation for an election date to provide to city council as to when to put this on a ballot for the citizens of Yukon. In discussion, we've had a recommendation of Tuesday, January 10th of 2023, after the new year, out of cycle of general elections. This is in that window of special elections. Any thoughts, questions on that date?
And that is the earliest date available.
Yes, sir.
And it gives you an opportunity within a reasonable amount of time, if it were to fail, to figure out why, and then come back before another general election cycle rolls around and before the end of the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Any other feedback? Do I have a motion?
so moved,
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll
Mr.
call.
Chairman, would you repeat your motion for the record, please?
So the motion is to have an election date on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023 for the bond project and the additional sales tax.
Thank you, sir.
We had a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Inmark,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Shelton,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Duderar,
Yes.
Solon,
yes,
Kretschmar,
Yes.
Simroth.
Yes.
Item number 5, any open input from the public? I see no one here. I believe we're all right. With that, any other items we want to cover as a group? Are we good?
City did a really good job putting this together.
Very much so. Yeah, thank you for all of your help and guidance.
That made it easy.
All right, we are adjourned.